again, this is Chris, and today I'm going to be doing a review over some retrofit parts from Flyin Miata. I haven't completed the installation yet. This is going to be a review, sort of an out-of-the-box, my impressions as I've been going through the process of installing it, some points I'd like to ponder, some difficulties I've run into, and some ways around it. So this isn't going to be a performance after the fact kind of review. This is more of a, hey, I have an older turbo system on my Miata and I've decided that I want to upgrade the piping. It's a great thing to do. But there are a few caveats, and I can just tell you, I'm just going to tell you how I overcame some of these things and some of the things you can look forward to, and some pointers for Flyin Miata for some products they might want to consider having in the future, or making changes to the current product in order to make installation easier for the average person. First thing I want to do is describe what I used to have. You can see down here on this pile on the ground, this is a turn of the century from the year 2000 turbo kit that was offered by Flyin Miata. It was actually sort of drop shipped from Bell Engineering. At the time, Bell Engineering was trying to basically market their own kit called the Aerocharger, which was a variable vane turbo that didn't have any oil lines or water lines going to it. And they had issues. It was very responsive, but they had issues. If you look back in the thread postings on Miata.net back then, but that was Corky Bell's main interest. If you're not familiar with him, he used to have Bell Engineering. I don't even think they're around anymore. But apparently, Flyin Miata used to have these kits drop shipped from Bell Engineering in Texas, because I still have the original instructions from mine and it came directly from Bell. This was the Bell 4.2 kit, and as you can see, it has a boatload of piping. This is all in between the intake, the turbo, and the intake manifold. This is what you used to get. Very convoluted. It came with this sort of cold air induction, which if you have one of these plates on your NA, you won't be able to use that. So after I got this and upgraded my radiator, I got rid of that piece. Followed by the intake, and then went into your mass airflow sensor, through this 290-degree thing before it went into the turbo, and then the turbo was clocked out of the top, which had this piece of pipe on it. Your blow-off valve was here. I've continually upgraded this kit since I got it originally. I have a Bailey blow-off valve that I've been running on this for quite a few years. This kit, as it came, did not have any kind of provision for a boost source. So I had to drill and tap the thread for this little 1/4-inch nipple right here in order to have a boost source on it. Also, part of that is part of what has to do with today's kit, because I had to do that for the original piping, and all of the new piping is the silicone type, like here. I had to do this. So it depends on how old your turbo kit is. If it's as old as mine was, you're going to have to, obviously, you have to reclock the turbo for this kit. And the easiest way to do that is simply to remove those and pull it straight off. You need to pull it straight off, as straight as possible, because if the impeller fins contact the inside surface of the compressor housing, they can be messed up and it will mess this up. But I had to pull this off to clock it anyway, so while I had it off, I had to drill and tap it, because there's no provisions for a boost source for your boost controller. Later kits, probably you won't have to worry about doing that, because I believe the later Flyin Miata kits had that. But as it came from Bell originally, it did not have that. So heads up, you're going to have to do this if you have a kit that's as old as mine was. It's a 1/8 NPT thread, and to the drill you're going to need to drill that for that tap is a 21/64. And now I say that because it's an unusual drill size. So you'll probably have to buy that as just the drill bit. But that's the drill bit you're going to need to drill that and tap that. And that's where you normally would have this fitting on there. But my turbo kit, if it's as old as mine was, you're not going to have that. So you're going to have to keep that in mind. You're going to have to do that for your turbo. Also, while this is off, now is the time, after you take this off, you can see down here, my next step that I've gotten to at this point is to make the cuts, the clearancing cuts for the compressor side. I haven't done that yet, but I'll be probably just making a C-shaped cut out of this instead of going by there. I'd rather have more room than not enough room, so I'm going to have a little bit bigger cut than what they recommend, but they do have that in their instructions. Let me put this over here. The next thing I'd like to touch on is I also got a new hose kit. I got the soft kit. Mine originally had these long fittings coming off of here. And at first I was thinking I wasn't going to be able to get a wrench in there, but after a while I was watching the install videos of the turbo kit that they have on Flyin Miata's website, or I guess they have it on YouTube. I just subscribe to their channels. I think that would also be a very good idea. But my water hoses were 20 years old and they were well past their due date. The new hoses are far superior. The old ones were simply this, what you would expect from the year 2000. It's just plain rubber, probably fuel injection line hose. They weren't faring very well, and they were extremely difficult to get off. I had to cut them off the fittings. But the new ones are vastly superior. I haven't got to that stage yet. But one of the things I wanted to talk about with these fitting kits, if you get a retrofitted hardline kit, or if you get the soft line replacement, in order to get this back one off, it's really tight. So to solve that problem, went to Harbor Freight, bought a cheap set of these angled box end wrenches. This is a 19 millimeter, and I just chopped that on my chop saw, and that gives you the ability to get down in here. See, the problem was I had the tool already, but with as long as it was, I wouldn't be able to rotate it with the AC compressor in the way. So I chopped it off to length, and after that I was able to get in there in order to get rid of that. As a side, before I figured out that that's what I needed to do, I was just going to leave this long one in there and have one long one in the back and just replace the one on that side. I also upgraded to, when I got that line, I got the Flyin Miata. Oh, here it is. I got the Flyin Miata hard oil line upgrade. So once you have all that out of the way, and after the cuts are done, I'm going to install this. And I've already pre-fitted it, and it fits very well. This, in fact, comes all the way up to the point where I'm probably only going to need about 2 inches of the soft rubber hose. Also, keep in mind when you get this kit, it has a replacement bung, so you're going to have to remove the bung that's in there and replace it with the 1/2 inch one that comes with this to match the new hose that goes on there. And when you put this in, it's best to have the compressor wheel off like that. It gives you more room to access. It'll give you more room to access the fitting once it's up in there. The same thing with this, same thing with that, and also when you're doing your cut. So the best thing to do is just remove the impeller, the compressor side housing altogether, and that gets you all out of the way. The only thing you have to be conscious of is when you're working around it, you cannot touch or impact the impeller wheel because it's extremely delicate, and if that gets damaged, you may as well get a new turbo, or you'll have to replace that compressor wheel. So from there, prior to this, I had already upgraded my radiator hose. Come over here. This is the upgraded radiator hose that comes with the intercooler kit. So I wanted to show how it's routed. Once the compressor wheel's back on there, this intake pipe comes down, crossed, and then down again. Before this, I had this radiator hose over the top of this AC line right here. But after I saw how that was going to go on, I decided to, while I had the radiator drained and all that, to undo this here and reroute the retrofit hose underneath this line here. It's going to give you a lot more room to work. Also, since you have this hose now, after you get the upgrade intercooler kit, you no longer need this. This is the original mounting bracket for the two-piece hose that used to be on the NAs. What I intend to do is just cut that off completely, because I don't want something this sharp edged that close to my intake silicone hoses. It'll free up more room. I'm going to do that after I do the same time I do the cuts here. The next tidbit is over here. Suggestion for Flyin Miata: have a separate and current install instructions for this retrofit kit. On my instructions, it had two different things in there. One said that my air intake temperature sensor bung would be on this, and on the video that you can watch online, it still was at the point where you had the intake bung worked into this piece of pipe, this silicone hose. But at the same time, they also had fittings, and they suggest when you get this kit that you mount your intake air temperature sensor on the front of the intercooler. I don't like that mounting to the intercooler. It would have been right here. I guess for just cost savings, they've eliminated that altogether. One thing you should probably do is get some aluminum or stainless steel bungs that can be retrofitted to your kit. It would be a good idea to have them available. I'm getting my stainless steel replacement from DIY Auto Tune, and I intend to drill and weld the stainless steel bung on this stainless steel connector pipe, which will be right down here. I think it's a better location, it's more convenient, and it's less likely to pick up heat and become heat saturated the way it would possibly do on the front of the intercooler. Also, it's a lot farther away from anything flying up into the mouth of the car and impacting the sensor. Also, stainless steel is very non-thermal conductive, which means it's not going to pick up a lot of heat. And on top of that, it's inside, covered up probably about that much between two silicone hoses, which aren't going to pick up as much heat either. So that's probably your best bet. But they should offer either the bung as an option already welded on here, because your average person isn't going to have the ability to weld that on there. I do have the ability. So that's what I'm going to do. Right now I'm just waiting on that fitting. Let's see what else. In order to mount the water thing, I already mentioned that I basically just got a cheap set of these from Harbor Freight and cut that off. Also, what else? Oh, this is the Bailey blow-off valve. This isn't the valve that originally came with this kit. Originally, this kit came with a cheap Mitsubishi plastic blow-off valve that was horrible. And it had this same 1 3/8" opening. And that was plumbed so that you could recirculate it. After that, before I got this kit, I had already bought the Flyin Miata intake kit over here. And I had manufactured my own cold air box, which I have a separate video on YouTube how to do. So I had already removed that, and since I'm on Mega Squirt, I've been venting the Bailey to the open atmosphere. But the problem is the Bailey has a 1 inch piece of plumbing going into it, and this opening is for 1 3/8". So how do we solve that problem? You solve it by, I went to Pegasus Racing and I looked for a 1 inch piece of silicone hose. The interior diameter is 1 inch. The outside diameter is 1 3/8". So I think you can understand what I'm trying to get at here, but they only sold lengths of 1 meter. I didn't want to pay $30 for 1 meter. So I bought a 90-degree bend that has two 4-inch straight pieces for $12. And what I intend to do is I'll cut off a piece that's about as long as this right here is. I'll slip it over there and then use that to up sleeve in order to go into there and then put your hose clamp around there. And that's going to be super secure and won't leak. So suggestions for Flyin Miata: either offer this with that bung already welded on, or offer to add the bung to the kit just so you don't have to go chase your tail afterwards and get that, because a lot of the people who are buying this as a retrofit are more than likely going to be running Mega Squirt, and you need that in order to do your tuning. If you're buying it and retrofitting a kit with like the Voodoo box or whatever, you probably won't need it because you're running the mass airflow sensor, which has the air intake temperature sense there. But for the rest of us who are doing that, that would be a great suggestion for Flyin Miata. Let's see. As a whole, the quality is excellent, and it really is streamlining this. I mean, look at all that steel pipe, which is both heavy, and since that's black steel in an engine compartment, you're also going to pick up radiant heat from the engine compartment, which is going to make the intercooler's life a lot harder. Plus, all those 90-degree bends and all that additional piping, which also went in front of the engine, which made doing a timing belt a pain in the butt. Also, that adds to there's a huge amount of throttle volume there, and you're probably down at least a pound of boost from all the restriction of all those 90-degree bends that all that mess of piping had. So, let's see, anything else I can think of here off the top of my head. Oh, also, Flyin Miata, please start sourcing new wastegate regulators that have this nipple coming off of this side. It can't be that hard. You've been making this kit for 20 plus years, or at least your version of it, but you still have this wastegate actuator with a nipple going that direction. Everybody's going to have their boost gauge on this side, okay? Source some wastegate regulator that has the nipple on this side, because when I run this, I have to use this in order to make a 180-degree turn. That's what I'm using, this Rube Goldberg solution, in order to not have to swing the hose all the way around. I'm probably going to just say screw that and just go with a longer piece of hose and go around with a loop. But seriously, as long as you've been making that kit and you're still offering that wastegate actuator with a nipple coming off the wrong direction, I don't know why you would do that. You're usually so much better at that. Let's see, what else? But like I said, overall, I'm very pleased with the kit, and it definitely cleans up the engine compartment. The direct route, I'm sure that I'll probably do another review after I've got it in the car and running, but I'm sure that reduction in all that convoluted piping, the straighter, the smoother flow, there's less points of failure. I mean, look at this. Look at this original setup. We've got, how many points of failure do we have? Let's start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 points of failure on all of the parts that have C boost. That's a lot of points of failure. How many do we have on this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points of failure. From 21 points of failure to 7 points of failure. That's outstanding. And this isn't going to pick up latent heat from the engine compartment. It's a much direct path. Instead of going all over the place back and forth in front of the engine and all that garbage, this goes from the turbo to the intercooler, through the intercooler, up and into the intake manifold. What could be better? So as far as I'm concerned with that, it's excellent. One more thing I wanted to recommend to Flyin Miata: if any way possible that you could have or manufacture or source something for the splash guard down there. I don't have the original splash guard. I had cut it up so much doing this, having to make this fit all this piping. I cut it up and threw it away years ago. But if you could have some part to retrofit or source some kind of splash guard that's already cut to eliminate one more step for Joe Blow to do this when they're adding your piping, that would be excellent. Currently, I have a aluminum, like a custom aftermarket aluminum splash guard coming to replace the plastic one, which is no longer there. It is beneficial to run it, but yeah, it's so much. This kit is so much better than this original stuff. I can't help it. But I just wanted to make this video. It's going on a little bit longer than I really expected, but I just wanted to show you these things that you need to expect if you're looking to retrofit a turbo kit. And you might not have your turbo kit might not be quite as old as this one, but this is probably the worst case scenario as far as retrofitting the modern piping to a kit that's 20 years old. But I suggest that you do it, and it's definitely a good idea. You're getting a bargain for what you're paying for this. It really cleans up the intake compartment. I can't wait to see how much better the turbo response is going to be, and I'll probably pick up at least a pound of boost from all that throttled volume and all the restrictions in the old intake system. So for that, that concludes my review of this upgrade kit, the hard oil drain line kit, and putting new hoses on there. If you have any questions, you can just leave them in the comments below. And after this is fully installed, I'll probably be doing another review, just a quick performance review of this retrofitted kit after I get it retuned. But for now, that's all. Take it good.